maybe add it to your unit circle or something, those 3 rules. So I'm just going to make sure that I remember that for sine, the calculator gives me the first answer, and then to get the second answer, I do pi minus what the calculator gave me. For cos, I let the calculator give me the first answer, and then I do 2 pi minus what the calculator gave me. And tan is the easiest one. You take what the calculator gave you and you can add pi to it. So those are the little shortcuts that we're going to be using anytime we do a calculator problem. All right. So the instructions for this problem say they want only decimal answers. So even if you have a unit circle problem, you are not using your unit circle. You are using a calculator because we're doing all decimals for this section. Okay. So if we look at number 5, how do I get theta all by itself? So I'm going to say theta is tan inverse of square root 3. And I'm actually going to type that into my calculator. I am using the tan button, so what mode do I need to be in? I need to be in radians. We're always going to default to radians for pre-calc. So I'm going to do tan inverse of square root of 3. And we have 1.047. That's our first answer. 1.047. And they said they want both answers that are from 0 to 2 pi. And so since this is tan, what are we going to do to find our next answer? We're going to add pi. So take that decimal. I'm going to add pi. Plus pi. And I'm using the actual pi key. I am not doing plus 3.14. Okay, use the actual pi button. 4.189. So those are our 2 solutions. All right. What should we do for the next one? Yeah, sine inverse to get theta all by itself. So my first answer is going to come from the calculator when I do sine inverse of 0.43. And so my first answer is 0.444. And then what do we do to get our second answer? We're going to do pi minus that. Okay, so I'll go ahead and store that as x. And then I'm going to do pi minus x. And so your second answer is 2.697. There's our 2 answers. All right, how do we feel about that? Good? Okay. I do want to look at number 7 because it's going to give you an odd answer first, like a weird answer. So we're going to do sine inverse of negative 0.21. And what happens with that?
Negative point.
Yeah, you have a negative answer, but your answers are all supposed to be between 0 and 2 pi, according to the instructions. Are we allowed to write down a negative answer? No. So I'm going to go ahead and store this as x because I am going to need this. So I'm storing it. And how could I take this answer and find a coterminal angle that is positive? Plus 2 pi. I'm going to add a full circle to that. So plus 2 pi. So that's the coterminal angle. Now that's a good answer. We can use that now. So for the first one, on this one, I'm going to go ahead and say 6.072. And then for the second answer, what shortcut do I use? Pi minus the first decimal that I got. And the first decimal that I got is what I stored in my calculator as x. So now we can go back just like we did before, and we can do pi minus x. And so we get 3.353. Do we see how we did it even though there was a little hiccup in the beginning of the problem? Okay with that? So second theta is 3.353. Okay. Let's go ahead and try a cos problem. Do you guys want to do number 10 or number 13? 13? You don't like it because of square root? Okay. So I'm going to divide by 6. divided by 6. So 3 square root 2 over 6 equals cos. I don't even have to know how to fix that if I'm doing this on my calculator. I can literally type in cos inverse of that fraction. So cos inverse, I'm typing in the fraction 3 square root 2 over 6. Can you see that? I'm typing it in exactly the way it looks. So it's no problem. Technically, this problem could be, this is a unit circle problem, but they wanted us to use our calculator for all of these. Okay, so I'm doing cos inverse of that.
What if we wrote it the other way? Does it have to be written in that fraction?
What other way did you write it? Yeah, no, it's fine. Should be fine. You had alpha y equals. That's how you get a fraction. Okay. You could simplify it, but you don't have to. You'll get the same answer either way. All right, so we end up getting that theta is 0.785. And how do we get our second answer?
Minus 2 pi?
Yeah, we do not minus 2 pi. We do 2 pi minus that. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to store that as x. And then I do 2 pi minus x. And I get 5.498. Okay. Do we feel okay with those?
Yeah.
Okay. The two challenge problems are 15 and 16. Why would I say those are challenge problems? Because it's cotangent. Is there a button on your calculator for cotangent? No. And it's secant. Is there a button on your calculator for secant? No. So you're going to get to those. You're going to try the best you can, and then I'll show you how you can do them. Okay? All right. So for number 15, how could you start the problem?
You add one to both sides.
Yeah, add one to both sides. Katie, I'm sorry, my answer for 15 was wrong because I divided 1 over. You might have done it right, I'm not sure.
Oh, well, I didn't even do cotangent. I thought it was like 1 over tan.
Yeah, okay, so for this, cotangent is not a button on our calculator. So we want to write this as tangent instead. So we say cotangent is 1 over 1, and so that means that tangent is, when I flip it, what do I get?
1.
Still 1 over 1. And so what I'm going to type into my calculator is I'm going to type in tan inverse of 1. So I can't do the problem with cotangent, but I can fix it and do the problem with tangent. Okay, so I get theta is approximately 0.785, and then since it's tangent, what do I do to find my next answer?
Plus pi.
Plus pi. So 3.927.
So
Okay.
those ones we don't have. I've been storing it for no reason.
Some of them, yeah, you
I
can
just
just add.
press plus.
Yeah. I think that it's better for you to get in the habit of storing it than to get stuck because you don't know what to do. Yeah. So it's good if you practice. Some of these you can store them, some of them you don't need to store them. I'd rather just say store it every time so you get really good at it. Okay. All right, for number 16, what should we do to get the
Plus
secant
4.
theta isolated? Plus 4. So if we add 4, we have, what do we get? Okay, and that's secant theta, but I don't like secant theta because there's no button for it, right? I want cos theta. I'm gonna write this as a fraction, and I'm gonna flip that fraction. I'm not gonna actually figure out what this would be because it'd be a nasty decimal if we actually typed it in. I'm just gonna leave it like that. Can my calculator handle that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it can. So I'm gonna do cos inverse. See that? Cos inverse of 1 divided by negative 4.31. And then I'm going to store that, and I'm going to do 2 pi minus that decimal. And there's my other decimal. Does that make sense, how we did that? Okay, so if it's in one of the other 3 trig ratios, you can still use the calculator. You just got to do a little bit of maneuvering the number first before you can do it. Okay. How are we feeling about those? Pretty reasonable? Okay.